He returned home in a wheelchair to test the woman who claimed to love him. He found only silence. But the housekeeper, in tears, revealed who truly cared. What he never imagined was the dark plan he was about to uncover. Carter stood before the bathroom mirror, a towel still on his shoulder, staring at his own face, as if trying to read something there. 42 years old. A billionaire, owner of companies most people didn't even know were his. In the mirror, he didn't see power, success, or vanity, only doubt. 2 weeks earlier, he had accidentally overheard a conversation Lauren was having on speakerphone. She had forgotten to hang up after ordering food through an app. When she walked away, Carter heard it. He heard everything. She was talking to someone named Eddie. She called him my love. She said she would sort everything out soon and that he could finally leave his apartment for good. Her voice was sweet, the kind she hadn't used with Carter in a long time. Since that day, he hadn't slept properly. He tried to confront her, to talk, to observe, but Lauren dodged every attempt, making jokes or changing the subject. And he asked himself, what if she's only with me for the money? What if this is all an act? He wouldn't be played for a fool, not him, the man who was always one step ahead. In the garage, James, the driver, was waiting with the car running. He already knew about the plan. Carter had told him everything, making it clear that he was the only one who would know the truth. James was one of those old-school guys whose word was his bond. He'd been with Carter for over 15 years. He saw Lauren arrive, saw her grow comfortable in the house and gain space in his life. He also saw when her attitude began to change. James didn't say much, but he knew how to observe. And when Carter told him the plan, he was in. The plan was simple on paper. Carter would fake a car accident, return home in a wheelchair, and see how Lauren reacted. If she truly loved him, she would stand by him. If not, well, he would know. On the way, the two men spoke little. Carter watched the city pass by the window, looking like he carried the weight of the world on his shoulders. It was almost midnight when they reached a deserted stretch of road outside the city. James sped up, controlling every detail as planned. A sharp turn, a blown tire, a crash into an embankment, all controlled. Nothing to cause real injury, but enough to look serious. When the police arrived, Carter was already on the ground, motionless, claiming he couldn't feel his legs. The ambulance, the hospital, the tests, all part of the show. The doctors, hired privately, had been paid a fortune to maintain the story that he was now a paraplegic. The private hospital had been prepped for days. Lauren showed up at the hospital hours later. She looked like she'd been caught by surprise. But there were no tears, no despair. She stood by the bed, held his hand, and said in a low voice that everything would be okay. But she wouldn't meet his eyes. She checked her phone from time to time, stepping out of the room for short calls and returning with a lighter expression, as if relieved. Carter couldn't move, but he saw everything. Her every action confirmed his worst fears. 2 days later, he was discharged and returned to the mansion. The mansion he had built himself, with every detail designed by him, now felt like a battlefield. James wheeled him to the entrance. Maria, the housekeeper, came running out, her eyes welling with tears. When she saw Carter in the chair, her reaction was heartbreaking. She knelt on the ground, touched his arm, and cried real tears. She cried like someone who had lost a family member. No drama, no theatrics, just pure emotion. Carter remained silent, feeling a tightness in his chest, but he didn't let it show. He looked at Lauren, who stood a few steps back, watching with her arms crossed. She sighed, pulled her phone from her pocket, and went inside without a word. Inside the mansion, James and Maria adjusted everything for Carter's new reality. Ramps were installed, doors were unlocked, and emergency bells were placed throughout the house. He pretended to struggle with simple tasks, like picking up a glass of water, and Maria was always nearby, ready to help. Lauren would appear occasionally, plant a kiss on his forehead, and retreat to her room with excuses like, "I have a call now," "I need to sort some things out for the salon," or "People on Instagram are asking about me." At night, Carter would sit in the living room with the TV on low volume. Maria would pass by with a blanket and cover his legs without a word. It was as if she knew what he needed before he even asked. Lorraine, on the other hand, would text him asking if he was asleep yet, even though they were on the same floor. When he replied that he wasn't, she would say, "Stay strong, honey." And that was it. James, loyal as ever, provided daily reports, showing him screenshots of conversations, photos of Lauren out with Eddie, and discreetly recorded audio clips. Every detail was logged. The more he knew, the harder it was for Carter to hide his disappointment. One of those days, sitting on the veranda and pretending to gaze at the horizon, he overheard Lauren on the phone. She said she couldn't stand this charade of a domestic life anymore, that she was tired of faking concern, that she didn't have the stomach to care for an invalid. She thought no one was listening, but Carter heard, and it was like pouring gasoline on a fire. A few minutes later, Maria appeared with a plate of warm food and a tired smile. She said she had made his favorite dish. Carter thanked her without speaking. He picked up the fork with rehearsed difficulty and began to eat slowly. She stood there for a few minutes, asking if he needed anything else. He said no. She left, and he was alone, eating in silence, staring ahead, his mind racing. The greatest performance of his life had just begun, and now, more than ever, he wanted to see just how far Lauren was willing to go. The black car moved slowly through the mansion's gate. It was an overcast afternoon, the kind of day that already felt heavy with something strange in the air. Carter was in the back seat, silent, his hands on his legs. The legs he pretended he couldn't feel. James glanced at the rearview mirror and gave a slight nod. Everything was under control. The house was quiet, broken only by the sound of the fountain outside and the soft whir of the wheelchair wheels on the marble floor. Carter entered through the main door and saw everything as he had left it. Yet it all felt different. The house seemed colder, not because of the temperature, but from the absence of human warmth. It was as if the place's energy had shifted. Lauren appeared, descending the staircase slowly. She wore a tight dress, high heels, and perfect makeup, looking as if she had just returned from an event. She looked at him with an unreadable expression, a mix of forced surprise and faint annoyance. She walked down the last few steps as if treading on eggshells. "Hey, honey," she said, approaching him. She gave him a quick, barely there kiss on the forehead. "How are you?" He feigned a weak voice, looked into her eyes, and said he was trying to accept it. She nodded but said nothing more, turning to call James to help with the bags. Just then, Maria appeared from the kitchen door. She wore an apron stained with sauce, her hair tied back simply as always. When she saw Carter in the wheelchair, she froze for a second, and her eyes filled with tears. She didn't ask a thing, just rushed to him and squeezed his hand tightly. "It's so good to have you home, Mr. Carter. We'll take good care of you here." Carter just smiled gratefully, trying to stay in character. Maria hurried off to prepare something for him to eat, saying she would warm up the food she'd already made, just waiting for him. Meanwhile, James pushed the wheelchair into the living room. Lauren followed, phone in hand. "I've arranged everything with the accessibility company. They're coming to install those things, you know, grab bars, ramps, all that stuff. And a physical therapist is scheduled for tomorrow." She spoke like someone reading a grocery list, devoid of emotion, not pausing to listen. Carter noticed she avoided direct eye contact. She claimed to have a headache, said she was going to take some medicine, and disappeared upstairs. The rest of the evening was strange. Carter sat in the living room, watching TV without paying attention. Maria brought him his food and stayed nearby for a bit, respecting his silence. James passed through from time to time, exchanging glances with Carter but saying nothing. They both knew the real game had just begun. The next day, Lauren left early. She said she had to take care of things at the salon, an important client, that life couldn't just stop. She left a quick kiss on Carter's cheek and rushed out. She didn't ask if he needed anything. She didn't even make him breakfast. She left as if nothing had changed. Hours later, Maria appeared with coffee, the newspaper, and a worried expression. She didn't ask much, but you could see she felt the pain he was faking. She cleaned the rooms, humming softly, speaking to the furniture as if it were alive, and always left a small, hidden gesture of affection, a straightened cushion, a glass of cold water, a blanket folded in the corner of the sofa. Carter began to realize that everything he needed to observe was right there in those details. Lauren only came home at night, and when she did, she seemed bored. She'd toss her bags on the sofa, grab her phone, and lock herself in the bedroom. Sometimes she'd say she was going to bed early. Other times, she wouldn't even say that. One night, Carter woke to the sound of her car leaving the garage. It was almost 2 a.m. He buzzed James on the intercom. "Follow her. Don't talk to anyone. Just tell me where she went." James didn't reply. He just grabbed the spare key and was gone. The next morning, Lauren returned in the same clothes from the night before, claiming she'd slept at a friend's house. Carter didn't ask questions, just observed. She gave a fake smile, poured herself coffee, and went upstairs again. James returned late that morning. He had photos. She had been at a bar downtown with Eddie. Kisses, laughter, embraces, the kind of thing you do when you're not afraid of being caught. She didn't care anymore. She thought Carter was trapped in his chair and the web of lies she was spinning, but he didn't react. He saved the photos, thanked James with a nod, and continued to play his part. The more contempt Lauren showed, the deeper Carter sank into the pain of someone betrayed by life, not by her. At the same time, Maria displayed a kind of loyalty he never expected. She cleaned the floors on her knees and served Carter's dinner with a care that went beyond the duties of a simple housekeeper. That night, Lauren passed by his room and said only, "Good night." No touch, no eye contact. Soon after, Maria came in, leaving a cup of tea on the table and saying it was good for calming the nerves. "It's very cold tonight, isn't it, Mr. Carter?" He answered with a simple, "Yes, it is." Her words held more warmth than Lauren's entire body. He didn't sleep that night. He stared at the ceiling, thinking how unfair life could be, but also how the truth was laid bare right in front of him, and no one but him seemed to see it. On the third day, the crew arrived to install grab bars in the bathroom, handrails on the stairs, and ramps. Lauren supervised everything with a rushed impatience, as if she wanted it over with. She took video calls while the workers hammered into the walls. When one of the men asked where to install a handle by the bed, she replied without looking up, "There, I don't know. Wherever is least work for whoever has to take care of him." Carter looked at James, who stood in the corner, and felt the certainty he needed. The woman he thought he would grow old with was now treating him like a broken piece of furniture. The house was the same, but love, if it ever existed, had already walked out the front door. The first thing Carter started to notice was the silence. Lauren moved through the house like a hotel guest. No laughter, no conversation, no feigned concern. Everything about her was automatic. Good morning, good afternoon, good night. Always rushed, always on her phone. The silence between them grew heavier each day. Carter spent most of his time in the living room or his bedroom, pretending to be weak but with his mind racing. He began to notice that Lauren avoided being alone with him, always finding an excuse: the hairstylist, her personal trainer, a meeting at the salon. When she passed by, she'd stare at her phone as if he were invisible. Sometimes she'd give him a quick, cold, almost procedural kiss on the head. Meanwhile, Maria remained steadfast, working quietly but always present. She didn't make unnecessary small talk or hover over him, but she was always attentive. She would ask if he wanted water, coffee, or if he needed the window opened for a breeze. Small gestures that spoke louder than words. Carter began to look forward to these moments more than Lauren's visits. One day, he heard Lauren talking to her friend Rebecca in the kitchen. They were laughing quietly. He didn't catch the beginning of the conversation, but he heard Rebecca ask if she didn't think it was risky to continue with all of this. Lauren laughed and replied, "He's finished, Rebecca. He'll be bedridden for the rest of his life. What's he going to do? Kick me out. Good luck with that." They both burst into laughter. Carter stared at the ceiling, breathing deeply. This was no longer suspicion. It was certainty. But it wasn't time to react yet. That week, James began to move more freely around the house, checking the car, testing cameras, bringing documents. No one suspected a thing. He was part of the furniture. Maria started noticing strange things. Lauren would spend hours locked in her room, talking softly on the phone. One night, Maria heard an "I love you" coming from the room. But when she entered with a tray, Lauren was pretending to watch a series on her laptop. Maria didn't say anything, but it stuck in her mind. The relationship between Maria and Carter became one of silent trust. She started bringing him little things he liked, such as freshly baked biscuits for breakfast or arranging the bookshelf just the way he preferred. On a rainy night, Maria appeared with a blanket and a cup of tea. She said the night smelled of longing. Carter laughed for the first time in days. Maria sat in the corner of the sofa and kept him company in silence. In that moment, the silence spoke more than any conversation. Lauren returned near dawn, smelling of alcohol, her mascara smudged. She walked straight past the living room and went upstairs without a glance. The next day, she claimed she had slept at her cousin's. Carter just nodded. His silence was more powerful than any argument. At the end of that week, James handed Carter a folder with photos of Lauren and Eddie at the mall, in a coffee shop, at a motel. The images spoke for themselves. What hurt most wasn't the betrayal, but her ability to fake it so well inside his own home. That same afternoon, Maria entered the study with swollen eyes. She said she needed to apologize. Surprised, Carter asked why. She replied that she had overheard Lauren on the phone, arranging to disappear with everything soon. She said she felt bad for eavesdropping but couldn't keep it to herself. Carter thanked her and decided not to reveal his plan to her. But something changed between them. Maria began to jot everything down in a hidden notebook: times, details, names. Lauren, on the other hand, started getting irritated by everything. She complained about the house, the food, everything. And she began to talk about selling the property, buying something smaller, more practical. Carter asked how she planned to do that without consulting him. She replied coldly, "You'll agree eventually. You won't have a choice." It was the first time Carter felt real anger, but he held it in. Later, when Maria brought him dinner, he asked her to sit. He asked, "If one day you realized you were in the middle of a lie, what would you do?" Maria answered, "I'd get out of it, even if it hurt." Her answer echoed in his mind. Days later, James brought new evidence. Audio recordings of Lauren laughing with Eddie, saying that Carter wouldn't last long and that all she needed was for him to sign the transfer documents. Carter decided to send the papers to a lawyer. He discovered that the power of attorney she wanted gave Lauren total control over everything: accounts, properties, stocks, the power to sell, withdraw, transfer, and even make medical decisions in case of an emergency. Now there were no more doubts. She didn't just want his money, she wanted his entire life, and fast. Maria, who had been acting strangely, decided to speak up. She said she had seen Lauren tampering with the safe and found a hidden suitcase in the closet filled with cash and passports. Carter took a deep breath and thanked her for trusting him, and in that instant, he knew the final piece of his plan was about to fall into place. For the first time, Maria felt he was saying more than he was letting on, as if he knew much more than he showed, and he did. He had already decided on his next move, and it was going to be big. The clock struck 8 in the morning as Maria opened the bedroom curtains. The light crept in slowly, falling on Carter's face, who was already awake. He hadn't been sleeping well for days. The exhaustion wasn't physical, it was mental. The whole charade was taking its toll, but he knew he had to maintain his composure just a little longer. The plan was far from over. The routine in the mansion had changed. Everything revolved around Carter's health. A physical therapist came twice a week. A nurse checked his blood pressure, he had a balanced diet, and he took medications he didn't even need, all to keep the story alive. Lauren, when she was around, feigned a certain level of care. She would sit beside him, ask if he was okay, and smile without a soul. She seemed more concerned with keeping up appearances than with his actual condition. She was hardly ever home, always using the salon or some important commitment as an excuse. She would leave through the gate in different outfits, high heels, expensive bags. She always returned tired, talking to someone on the phone, as if living a parallel life. And she was. Maria continued to be the pillar of it all. The house ran because of her. She organized schedules, managed visitors, prepared meals, took care of the cleaning, and still found time to sit for a few minutes beside Carter and sincerely ask how he was feeling, not just physically, but inside. Carter began to grow attached to that quiet presence. Maria didn't ask too many questions, didn't pry into his life, but she showed care in every detail. It was she who left the blanket folded by his armchair. It was she who brought his coffee just the way he liked it, strong and without sugar. It was she who turned off the TV when he fell asleep in the living room. And Lauren had completely checked out. Once, Carter was in the living room and overheard her tell her personal trainer on a call, "I get so tired when I have to entertain him. It's like taking care of an old piece of furniture." The sentence cut like a knife. He swallowed hard but kept his expression neutral. He knew that the more she revealed herself, the easier it would be to unmask everything later. James continued his mission. Besides watching Lauren, he started digging into the background of Dr. Allen, the lawyer who had appeared with the power of attorney documents. Carter wanted to understand where this piece of the puzzle had come from. The name wasn't unfamiliar, but he had never hired him for anything important. James returned with some explosive information. Allen was known for handling emergency business, the kind involving rapid asset transfers and legalizing dubious decisions. He was a partner in a shell company registered in Eddie's name. Meanwhile, Lauren kept trying to speed up the signing process. She invented deadlines, said she needed it to resolve company matters, and started applying emotional pressure. "Honey, you trust me, don't you? We need to think about the future. All of this needs someone to take care of it if something happens to you." She spoke with a sweet voice, but her eyes didn't lie. Carter would reply with a, "I'm thinking about it," and she would give that rehearsed smile just to keep the mood light. Maria noticed the strange atmosphere and discreetly asked if Carter was okay. He responded with a faint smile. "I'm holding on." The phrase stuck in her mind. She didn't know the whole truth, but she felt there was something wrong behind all that calm. That week, the mansion began to receive visits from different people. An architect came to measure rooms. A real estate agent came to appraise the property. Lauren said it was to get everything in order for insurance purposes, but Carter knew exactly what she was doing, trying to sell his house without his knowledge. She just didn't expect him to know everything, and that he was letting her dig her own grave. The most ironic part was seeing how Lauren treated strangers with a politeness she never used at home. With visitors, it was all smiles, fresh coffee, and charm. With Maria, it was rudeness. With James, indifference. With Carter, she played the role of a caregiver that no longer convinced anyone. Once, her irritation slipped out. Maria was setting the dinner table and accidentally dropped a fork. Lauren glared at her with contempt and said loudly, "You live in this place as if you own it, but you'll never be anything more than the maid, so pay attention to what you're doing." Carter heard everything, and it hit him hard, not for himself, but for Maria, who bent down, picked up the fork, and said a choked, "Sorry." Carter waited for Lauren to leave and called James. He asked him to record everything from then on, audio, video, conversations. "She's going to burn herself, James. We just need to show the world what we already know." And so it was done. The routine now had two sides. The theatre Lauren tried to maintain, and the backstage Carter and James were building in silence. One side full of lies, the other full of proof. On one of the toughest nights of that week, Maria brought a bowl of soup to Carter's room. When she entered, he was listening to music with his eyes closed. She stood at the door for a few seconds and asked, "Forgive me for asking, but are you really okay, sir?" Carter opened his eyes slowly, looked at her for a moment, and replied, "Not yet, but I will be." And that "I will be" wasn't just about health. It was about justice, about a comeback, about everything he still had to show. The house kept running as usual, but anyone paying attention would notice. The mood had changed. The silences were longer, the glances heavier, and the truth was getting closer to the surface. The day started normally. Maria woke up early, prepared coffee, cleaned the living room, and organized the bedrooms. The routine was the same, but the weight of the past weeks hung in the air, silent and dense. It felt as if the house held a secret too big to contain, and at any moment everything could explode. Maria, even without knowing everything, could feel it. She passed the hallway and saw Lawrence back in the study, talking on the phone. The door was ajar. She was about to announce that the maintenance crew had arrived to check the pool heater, but stopped. The tone of the conversation caught her attention. Lauren was speaking lower than usual, almost whispering with a nervous little laugh. "I already told you he's going to sign. It just needs one more push. The idiot believes I'm taking care of him, and the driver, a total pushover, doesn't suspect a thing. As for the little maid, she lives in that dirty apron, thinking she's in a TV drama." A pause. Lauren continued, "I'm so tired of this place. All I think about is us, far away from this house with the money in our account. Imagine it, Eddie, you and me in Barcelona, overlooking the sea. He can stay here with his wheelchair and his soap opera life." Maria's blood ran cold. It wasn't just cheating. It was a plan, a scam, and she, unintentionally, was now a part of it. She listened a little longer, her heart pounding, her legs trembling. "I just need to get the passwords. I already know where he keeps them. After that, we disappear. He'll think he lost everything in some bank issue. He won't even understand what happened. And even if he suspects, he won't be able to do anything. No one will believe a love-struck invalid." A laugh. Besides, that word doesn't even suit him anymore, does it? Love-struck. There's nothing left there, just pity. Maria walked away with tears in her eyes. She moved slowly down the hall, trying to breathe. She entered the kitchen and stood there, staring at the wall, gripping a dish towel so tightly her knuckles turned white. She thought about everything. She thought about Carter, about the things she had seen and felt, about the look on Lauren's face as she laughed while saying all that. What should she do now? Tell him? Get involved? What if she was exaggerating? What if she had misunderstood? But deep down, she knew she hadn't. She knew exactly what she had heard, and it wasn't the first time something like this had happened in that house. By the end of the day, Maria couldn't hide it. Carter noticed. He was on the veranda and called her over in a low voice. When she appeared, he asked directly, "Are you okay?" She hesitated, looked around, tried to smile. "I'm just a little tired, Mr. Carter." He didn't insist, but her demeanor gave everything away. She was paler, quieter, constantly fidgeting with her hands. Later, when Lauren left, saying she was going to the pharmacy and then the salon, Maria took her chance. She went back to the study, pushed the door open slowly, and went inside. She knew she shouldn't, but her curiosity was overwhelming. She looked for a paper, a clue, anything that would show what Lauren planned to do, and she found it. In the desk drawer was an envelope with Carter's name handwritten on it. Inside was a printed document and a blank sheet where she had been practicing his signature over and over, the same signature, copied repeatedly. Maria's stomach turned. She put everything back exactly as she found it and left quickly, without making a sound. In her mind, one question hammered away. What if she stayed silent and the worst happened? James appeared in the kitchen a little later for a glass of water. Maria almost told him, almost. But she froze. He was loyal to his boss, yes, but what if she was meddling where she shouldn't? She took a deep breath, composed herself, and said the weather was about to turn. James agreed without paying much attention. But from upstairs, Carter was watching everything on the hidden camera in the living room. Late that night, Maria brought dinner to his room. She was calmer, but still couldn't look Carter in the eye. He, who had been paying attention to everything, decided to take a chance. "Maria, did you hear something that upset you?" She stopped, holding the plate, staring at the floor. "Yes, I did, Mr. Carter, and I'm sorry, but I think Mrs. Lauren is up to something against you. I heard her on the phone with a man, and it wasn't good." He showed no reaction, just thanked her. He asked her to stay calm, said he would handle it, but inside he knew. This was it. The missing piece on the board had moved. Maria was a witness and an ally. That same night, Lauren returned home and went straight to her room. Maria was already in her own room, awake, silent, staring at the ceiling. She didn't know if she had done the right thing, but she knew she couldn't stay silent while watching someone be deceived like that. Carter, on the other side of the house, reviewed the audio, the images, and the documents. He already knew what he had to do. He knew who he could count on, and what Maria had accidentally overheard was the key that unlocked everything. Carter was in the library, standing in front of the bookshelf and planning his next move. When he heard Lauren's voice in the hallway, she sounded cheerful, in that exaggerated way she only used when trying to hide something. "You're going to like him, honey. He's trustworthy. One of the best in the country." He turned his chair slowly, showing no surprise. He already knew what this was about. She pushed the door open with a wide smile. Behind her, a man in a dark grey suit entered, holding a briefcase, with the air of someone used to faking pleasantries. "Mr. Carter, a pleasure. I'm Dr. Allen. Lauren has spoken very highly of you." Carter extended his hand, feigning some difficulty, and replied calmly, "The pleasure is mine." Lauren sat next to the lawyer and began to explain the reason for the visit. She said they had some documents piling up, that it was better to organize everything now to avoid future problems, and that he could trust Dr. Allen. "Just sign and get rid of the bureaucracy, honey." James came in with a tray of coffee. "Doctor." Allen thanked him, took a cup, and pulled some papers from his briefcase. "Nothing complicated, you see. A standard power of attorney, just to facilitate signing contracts and moving accounts in case of need. Emergency situations, you know how it is." Carter took the papers, pretended to read them with difficulty, and asked James to put them away for him to read later. Lauren didn't like that. "Honey, it'll be quick." "Doctor, Allen came all this way just for this." Carter cut her off with a slight smile. "Then he can come back another day, can't he?" The lawyer chuckled. Of course, no rush." They left half an hour later. Carter didn't even wait for the gate to close before asking James to take the documents to his private lawyer, Dr. Miller. When Miller called back, the response was short and direct. If he signs this, he loses everything. Meanwhile, Maria was in the laundry room, organizing cleaning cloths. When Lauren passed by, speaking loudly on her phone, she seemed irritated. "No, Eddie. He didn't want to sign. No, I didn't push him. Of course, I'll try again, and if that doesn't work, we'll find another way. He's old and sick. He won't last much longer." Maria froze again. She was in the wrong place at the right time. This time, she had no doubt. She went straight upstairs, waited for Lauren to leave the house, and went to Carter. She knocked on the door and entered with wide eyes. She said she's going to try again, that if she can't, she'll find another way, that you won't last much longer. Carter asked her to calm down. He said he already knew that everything was under control, but his face said otherwise. It said things had gone too far. The next day, Dr. Allen returned, alone. He said he had made some minor changes to the papers to make things even easier. Now it's just a limited authorization, nothing major. Carter looked at it and replied, "I'll show it to my accountant. I want to be sure I'm not signing away my own bankruptcy." The lawyer gave a forced laugh. Of course, imagine, but his demeanor had changed. He was more direct, less friendly. Hours later, James followed Dr. Allen's car to a simple office downtown. He waited from a distance and saw Eddie enter as well. They met for nearly an hour. When they came out, they were laughing and didn't notice the dashcam in James's car, recording everything. That same night, Lauren arrived in high spirits, as if nothing had happened. She said she was thinking of taking Carter on a trip to rest. An accessible resort, you know. Beach, comfort, peace. "We need this." He just nodded, like someone who was tired, and she thought she was winning. Little did she know the trap was already set. The next day, Carter called Maria and James into his study. For the first time, he told them everything, holding nothing back. He told them about the faked accident, the wheelchair, the investigation, what he already knew about Lauren and Dr. Allen. Maria was in shock. She had to sit down. "You were never sick, sir." Carter shook his head. "It was the only way to see who was truly on my side." Maria was silent for a few seconds. Then she stood up, looked him in the eye, and said, "The only thing that relieves me is knowing you're not really suffering, because what that woman is doing is just wrong." Carter thanked her. He said she was the only person in the house who never had to prove anything, and for that very reason, she was the only one he truly trusted. James then showed them the images, the audio recordings, the proof, the photo of Dr. Allen with Eddie, the conversations with Lauren, everything organized, everything ready to explode. But Carter didn't want just any revenge. He wanted to do it right, to show everyone, without rushing, without error, with all the details. Because people like Lauren and Dr. Allen aren't broken with anger. They're broken with the truth, in front of everyone. And the first step was to let them think they were winning. That night, Carter stayed late in his study. The mansion was silent. Lauren locked in her room, Maria sleeping in her quarters, and James at the gate, as always, pretending to do his rounds while tracking Lauren's phone. Everything in order, everything working as planned. Carter spent hours on the phone with his lawyer, Dr. Miller, a discreet older man who spoke little but knew exactly what he was doing. He explained the entire plan, showed him the documents Dr. Allen had presented, and told him what he wanted to do. Miller listened to it all and said calmly, "You want them to sign their own trap? It can be done, but it has to be perfect." And that's when the real plan was born. In the following days, Carter started to pretend he was giving in. He began to seem more fragile, more tired, even disheartened. He spoke to Lauren in a low voice, avoided arguments. He gave the impression he was about to accept everything. Lauren noticed and grew excited. She started to curate her image as a devoted wife better. She prepared his coffee, with Maria's help, of course, put on ambient music, said good morning more sweetly, and even started posting old photos of them on social media with captions like, "In sickness and in health." But as soon as he left the room, she was back on her phone, talking to Dr. Allen and Eddie like a different person. Carter asked Dr. Miller to prepare a fake version of the power of attorney, one that looked real, with legal language and seals, but in practice granted no rights. Everything was controlled, every line written with care. On paper, it looked like she would have total control over his assets, but legally, it was null, just a fake document with zero validity. Furthermore, Miller inserted a few hidden clauses that would incriminate anyone who presented that paper as genuine. 2 days later, Carter asked James to call Lauren to his study. When she entered, he was in his wheelchair, looking out the window. A few seconds of silence. She asked if everything was okay. He replied, in a low voice, "I've thought about everything. I think you're right. If something happens to me, you need to be in control. You can call your lawyer. Let's get this over with." She smiled, her eyes shining, and tried to hide it. "Of course. You don't have to, honey. I just want what's best for both of us." But she could hardly contain her enthusiasm. Dr. Allen appeared the next afternoon with a broad smile and the same briefcase. Only this time, Carter was waiting. With the stage set, James offered coffee. Lauren sat beside the lawyer, and Carter held out his hand for the papers. "I want to read everything one more time." "Doctor." Allen began to explain clause by clause, with the air of someone trying to be persuasive without sounding desperate. Carter feigned difficulty understanding, asked simple questions, simulated doubt. After a few minutes, he said, "How about this? Give me a copy. I'll sign, but I want to keep one for myself." Dr. Allen didn't like the idea, tried to insist they keep it, but Carter was firm. "I won't back down on this. If I'm signing something this serious, I need my own copy." Lauren pretended to agree. Dr. Allen reluctantly gave in. The document Carter signed was the fake one, the version drafted by Dr. Miller, and before the meeting, James had already swapped the papers in Dr. Allen's briefcase with this version, all recorded, all filmed. The look on Lauren's face as she watched him sign, her hand trembling slightly with emotion, it was priceless. After the signing, Dr. Allen put the papers away and said he would get everything filed. Lauren was thrilled, already planning a trip, talking about starting over, and even commented a little too loudly, "Now things will finally move forward, honey." Carter just replied with a discreet smile, one that, unbeknownst to her, meant something else entirely. Later, James walked Dr. Allen to the gate and, without him noticing, took a photo of him holding the briefcase. At the same moment, Carter was already sending a message to Dr. Miller. "Document delivered. You can proceed." The plan was now in motion. Everything recorded, everything documented. In the following days, Lauren began to act like she owned everything. She started calling banks, trying to schedule meetings in Carter's name. She sent messages to real estate agents asking about selling properties. She even went through the safe again, looking for the deeds to a piece of land. But nothing went the way she expected. The banks denied her requests. The agents asked for official authorization, and she started to lose control. One afternoon, she yelled at a bank employee on the phone, "What do you mean the power of attorney isn't valid? I have the signed paper right here." On the other end of the line, the representative explained that the document number was invalid, the signature didn't match their records, and the release of assets was not permitted. She hung up furiously, threw her phone on the sofa, and stormed out, slamming the door. Maria heard everything and knew the house of cards was about to fall. Even without understanding the details, she could see Lauren was losing her grip, and Carter was becoming calmer and calmer, observing everything with a firm gaze, like someone who could already see the end of the game. Late that afternoon, Dr. Allen returned, this time nervous. He wanted to speak with Carter urgently. He said there was a legal issue with the documents and that it might be better to redo everything. But Carter didn't even let him in. "Now is not a good time, doctor. I'm recovering. Come back another day." He closed the door slowly and stood there for a few seconds, listening to Dr. Allen's hurried footsteps retreating across the veranda. The sound of someone who sensed something was wrong, but it was already too late. The trap was set and time was running out for them. Maria woke up with her heart racing. It felt as if she hadn't slept at all. She had spent the entire night tossing and turning, thinking about the recent conversations, the papers, Lauren's actions. What was once suspicion was now certainty. But as much as she knew what was happening, something deeply bothered her. It still felt like it wasn't enough. She wanted to truly help, to do something that would actually prevent the worst from happening. And to do that, she would have to step out of the safe corner she had always occupied. After preparing breakfast, she saw Lauren rush out the front door, talking loudly on her phone to someone she couldn't see. The woman didn't even glance at Carter, who was sitting on the veranda as usual. Maria brought him his coffee and stood there, holding the cup for a few seconds. She was nervous. He noticed, "Spit it out, Maria. What's going on?" She took a deep breath and blurted it out. "I need to help you, sir, but for real. I don't want to just stand by and watch anymore." Carter looked at her intently, silent for a moment, then said, "If you get into this, there's no turning back. I know, but I can't just watch all of this and keep cleaning the house." That morning, Carter told her the entire plan with all the details. He said that Lauren and Dr. Allen were one step away from trying to use the fake documents as if they were real, and that this would be their downfall. But time was short, and he needed someone who could do what he, pretending to be ill, could not. That's when she offered, "Leave it to me. Tell me what I need to do." Carter hesitated. He didn't want to expose her, but he knew Maria was trustworthy, not just because she was honest, but because she had nothing to gain from it. She was truly loyal. That same afternoon, James discreetly passed Maria a burner phone, one just for her, not connected to the house. With it, she could film, record, and communicate without raising suspicion. And the first step of her mission was simple: follow Lauren, find out where she was going, who she was talking to, and what she was planning behind Carter's back. The next day, Lauren left right after lunch. She said she was going to the salon, but she didn't take her work uniform or makeup bag. Maria waited a few minutes and left too. She called a rideshare using a fake name. The driver dropped her off 2 blocks from the address James had given her, a commercial building downtown. Maria hid behind a newsstand, staying quiet, phone in hand. A short while later, she saw Lauren entering the building with Dr. Allen. She was wearing sunglasses and walking quickly, as if she were late. Maria followed them to the reception and saw them enter a room on the 3rd floor. She waited a bit longer and went up, pretending to look for a cosmetology class. She knocked on the wrong door, asked for information, and in the confusion managed to overhear snippets of the conversation from behind the closed door. "He doesn't know anything. He's already signed everything. Now we just need to try the bank one more time. If that doesn't work, we file for a conservatorship." The word conservatorship made Maria's blood run cold. They wanted to declare Carter legally incompetent, as if he had lost his sanity. If they succeeded, they would take everything legally. They wouldn't even need the power of attorney. Maria left trembling and messaged James, who was already on standby. They arranged to meet in a nearby parking lot. When she got in the car, James asked, "Are you sure you want to continue with this?" And she replied, "There's no turning back now." On the way, She told him everything. James recorded her voice to have a record. Then they stopped at a coffee shop with Wi-Fi, and she printed the location data from Lauren's and Dr. Allen's phones that afternoon. Maria put everything in a folder to give directly to Carter, but when she got back to the house, she was almost caught. Lauren was already at the gate. Maria hid the phone, pretending she had gone to buy groceries for dinner. "We were out of onions. I just ran out quickly." Lauren grumbled. "I hope you bought the right kind. I have a headache and I want a light soup." That night, Maria feigned normality, but her heart was pounding. After Lauren went to sleep, she went to Carter's room, knocked softly, and entered. She handed him the phone and the papers, telling him everything she had heard. Carter listened in silence, his face serious. When she finished, he took a deep breath. "They're speeding up. This changes everything." The next day, James called Dr. Miller and requested real documents about Carter's sanity. Exams, medical reports, memory tests, all legitimate from real professionals, the only way to prevent a possible conservatorship. Meanwhile, Maria continued her mission. She began recording conversations inside the house. She caught Lauren on the phone with Eddie, saying her patience was running out and that she was going to resolve it with or without a signature. She also recorded, "Maria gets on my nerves. Always meddling. I'm going to fire her one of these days." But she couldn't. At that moment, Maria was more than a housekeeper. She was the piece holding everything together. That evening, Carter called Maria for a private conversation. "You're risking yourself for me. Why?" She looked him in the eye. "Because no one deserves to go through this, and because I know you wouldn't do the same to her. You're not like that." The bond between them strengthened, without romance, without exaggeration, just respect, loyalty, trust. Maria had pushed her limits and nothing would stop her from seeing it through to the end. One sweltering morning, Carter was in the library reviewing Maria's latest recordings. James entered, sweating and tense. "I need to show you something. It's worse than we thought." He opened his laptop and hit play. A hidden camera in an old office showed Dr. Allen facing a woman with her hair pulled back and a steely gaze. "She's the secretary from Dr. Allen's old firm," James explained. "We paid her to tell us what she knows." The woman said Allen had never been clean. He created fake documents, forged powers of attorney, targeted vulnerable, sick, or elderly clients, and had them sign things without knowing. What made Carter freeze came next. And there's more. He used to be in a relationship with Lauren. They lived together. They have a young son who lives with her mother out of state. Carter's world turned upside down. He closed the laptop, staring at the wall. "It's personal, James. They're not just robbing me, they're making a joke out of me." James remained silent. The blow was too great. In the afternoon, Maria entered the study, looking serious. "And I heard her on a video call. She showed a paper and said Dr. Allen's part was done. Then she said, 'That idiot will think I ran off with Eddie, but the one who's really taking everything is my son's father.'" It all made sense. Eddie was a distraction, a puppet. The real partner was Dr. Allen, cold, calculating, having built this plan for a long time. Carter stood up from the wheelchair for the first time in front of Maria. She froze. "I'm sorry, but I can't pretend for you anymore. You deserve to know who I really am." Maria held back tears. "I already suspected you weren't as broken as you wanted to appear." Carter gave a sad smile. "They're going to pay, not just for what they did to me, but for everyone they've ever deceived." In the following days, James and Dr. Miller worked together. They searched for old lawsuits against Dr. Allen, public records, archived complaints, forgotten cases, and found one from an elderly woman who lost everything after signing a power of attorney he had drafted. Her name, Mrs. Yolanda, Lauren's aunt, everything connected. Lauren's family had a history of scams. Dr. Allen was part of it. They specialized in entering the lives of wealthy people, infiltrating, gaining trust, taking everything and disappearing. Carter was just another target, only this time they had made a mistake. The icing on the cake came from an audio recording between Lauren and Dr. Allen at a hotel. Maria had hidden the phone under the bed while delivering clean laundry. In the audio, they spoke openly. "Lauren, he's soft. He'll sign anything. He's already resigning himself to the chair. Allen, don't forget to cover our tracks. Eddie is getting too stupid. He's going to blow it. To hell with him. His job was just to be a distraction. You know the plan was always ours. After the money comes through, we disappear. I already have contacts in the Caribbean. In 6 months, no one will remember us." Carter listened with his eyes closed, holding back his rage. When it was over, he said, "It's time to end this charade." He called Dr. Miller and set the date, the day of reckoning. That afternoon, Lauren locked herself in her room, phone in hand, speaking softly, pacing back and forth. Later, she came downstairs without makeup, in a sweatshirt, her eyes red. From the kitchen, Maria smelled the theatrics. Lauren knocked on the study door. Carter answered without looking up. "Come in." She entered slowly, sat in front of him, fidgeting, searching for words. She confessed her mistake, said she had thought a lot, that she loved and wanted to take care of him, asked for forgiveness, rested her head on Carter's shoulder, and asked if she could sleep there so they could talk and remember us. "You can," he replied calmly. Inside, his stomach was churning. It was an act, and he needed it to be. Maria heard everything through a device hidden in the lamp. Hearing, "I love you," she closed her eyes, restraining the urge to storm into the room. James was also listening from outside, an earpiece in, recorder on. Lauren stayed for nearly 2 hours, crying, talking about trips, memories, fears. With each tear, the mask slipped another inch. Before leaving, she said she would make breakfast with her own hands. Carter nodded. She left, feeling light, convinced of her victory. Outside, James messaged Dr. Miller. She took the bait. The next morning, Lauren rushed to the kitchen and told Maria to rest. "I'll take care of everything today." She made coffee, cut fruit, and brought a tray to his room. "Good morning, honey. Breakfast in bed, just like old times." Carter gave a faint smile. "Thank you." At lunch, she dispatched Maria to the market. Special ingredients. "I'm going to make his favorite food." Maria, however, went to James's house, where Carter and Dr. Miller were waiting. They finalized the plan. They had proof, witnesses, audio, images, tracking. All that was missing was catching them in the act of trying to use the fake documents. With Lauren believing Carter was vulnerable, she would try again, and she did. That evening, she appeared with a new version of the papers. "Shall we make it official? I want to take care of everything for you." He feigned hesitation. She insisted. She placed the papers on the table, a pen on top. Carter signed part of the plan. The house was too quiet. Maria washed the last dishes with the radio on low, but she was alert. James was on standby in the garden, pretending to be on patrol, while Carter slept with the TV on as background noise. Lauren went up and down the stairs, headphones in, fake smiles, hidden texts, avoiding eye contact with Carter, as if, after the fake signature, she was already detached from him, and it was only a matter of time before she disappeared. She said she was going to bed, gave a quick kiss on his forehead, and went upstairs without asking anything. Outside, James monitored the cameras and sensors that had been reactivated in recent days. He saw a shadow jump the back wall, backpack, cap, and gloves. The figure moved through the hedge, crouching, waiting for a signal. James keyed his radio and called Carter. "He's in." "Eddie." "Definitely. Carter hung up, got out of bed, and went to the hidden camera in his room. He looked at the lens. Let's see how far he'll go. Maria appeared, breathless. "Mr. Carter, I saw him. Eddie's in the garden." "Calm down. Let him in. He's going straight for the safe. You're going to let him." "I have to see it. I need to catch him in the act." Eddie crossed the garage, entered through an unlocked side window, silent, dressed in black, only his eyes visible. He moved through the dark living room, went up the bedroom hallway, opened the study, and went straight for it. He pulled the right book, unlocked the false back, and opened the safe. Backpack on the floor, quick hands, documents, money, flash drives. He didn't seem scared, he seemed instructed. On the other side of the wall, Carter watched everything live, recording every move. Maria gripped his arm, nervous. "He's taking everything. Let him. He's going to walk right into the arms of the police." James alerted the security guards positioned on the street. "When he comes out, you move in. He'll try to escape the same way he came in." Eddie filled the backpack, closed the safe, and headed back. In the hallway, he turned off a radio playing softly in the kitchen, stopped, heard footsteps upstairs, and quickened his pace. He almost bumped into Maria, who feigned a gasp. "My God, who are you?" He pushed her and ran. She fell to the floor and screamed. James entered from the front. "Freeze! Drop the bag!" Eddie ran through the garden, tried for the wall. A security guard shone a light on his face. "Get down now, buddy. It's over." He tried to escape through the hedge, but was tackled by James. He fought, shouted, threw punches. Useless. He was handcuffed. Carter came down the stairs slowly. Lauren appeared in the hallway, startled. "What's happening?" "It was Eddie. He broke in, tried to rob the safe. Did you know?" She feigned outrage. "What? Eddie? I don't even talk to him anymore." "You don't?" "Of course not. We broke up. I'm here with you. I love you, Carter." He just stared at her, a look that burned. James entered with the backpack. "It's all here. Even the documents for the sale of the house." Lauren froze, breathing heavily. "So, what now, Lauren?" She didn't answer. She knew it was all over. Days later, Carter had everything prepared. Maria was surprised when he ordered catering, a decorator, a DJ and a photographer. "A party now?" "Yes, my birthday is in 3 days. It's going to be big, here at the house. I want everyone here." She fell silent and whispered, "It's the final piece of the plan, isn't it?" The preparations began immediately. Lauren, who had been quieter since the break-in, widened her eyes when she heard about the party. "Are you sure, honey? Are you well enough for this?" "I'm not. That's exactly why I want to celebrate. I never thought I'd go through all this and still be alive." She forced a smile. "All right then, I'll take care of everything." But she took care of nothing. She just forwarded a guest list to Maria via text and continued her act of concern. What she didn't know was that every name was a target of the plan. Close friends, business partners, 2 lawyers, Carter's former secretary, and, of course, Lauren and Dr. Allen. Carter also sent an invitation to the lawyer, complete with time, date, and open bar. 3 days later, that night, the mansion was decorated. Gold balloons, soft music by the pool area, waiters with glasses of champagne. Guests arrived in formal wear, commenting on the miracle of Carter being alive, lucid and well. With each handshake, Carter smiled, from his wheelchair, pushed by James, greeting one, thanking another, feigning fragility while, inside, he was just waiting for the moment to pull back the curtain. He was steadier than ever. Lauren circulated among the guests with the smile of a fake socialite. She took photos, made toasts, leaned on Carter, as if she were the woman of the year. She even slow danced with him by the edge of the pool. "It's so good to see you happy again, Carter." "Yeah, today I'm feeling renewed." At a certain point, Maria appeared with a phone hidden at her waist. She was monitoring everything with the security team. One of the most important parts of the plan was the exact moment of Dr. Allen's arrival. He had confirmed his attendance, but no one knew when until the intercom buzzed. "Dr. Allen has arrived," James announced, holding his radio. "Let him in." The man got out of his car with a discreet smile. He wore a beige blazer, a light blue shirt and polished shoes. He looked ready to give a lecture. He greeted a few guests, pretended not to see James, and walked straight to Lauren. "Good evening, Mum," he said, almost whispering. "You're crazy. Why did you even come?" "I was invited. Refusing would be suspicious. And besides, I like to see the finished masterpiece." Carter watched from a distance. His anger was controlled. The plan was ready. What he needed now was the right moment. The DJ lowered the music. Maria stepped onto the small, improvised stage next to the pool and took the microphone. "Good evening, everyone. We are here today to celebrate another year of life for our dear Carter, a man who has been through everything and is still here, strong and full of reasons to celebrate. Please, let's welcome him with a round of applause." Carter appeared, pushed by James, in silence. The guests applauded, moved. Lauren, beside the stage, smiled and pretended to wipe her eyes. Dr. Allen clapped discreetly. Carter took the microphone, looked at everyone, and took a deep breath. "Thank you, seriously, thank you all for being here. This year was difficult. I almost lost everything. And I'm not just talking about my health. I'm talking about life, people, trust, silence. But I realized something important. Sometimes, when everything seems dark, that's when you see who is really with you and who was just waiting for the right moment to pull the rug out from under you." Some people exchanged glances. Maria, by the sound system, had the video ready. "Today, before we cut the cake, I want to show you all something. A gift, not for me, but for all of you. Because you deserve to know who you've been associating with all this time." He gave a nod. Maria pressed the button. The big screen lit up. What followed silenced the entire garden. Images of Lauren kissing Eddie in a restaurant. Recordings of her talking with Dr. Allen about money. Audio clips of their plan. Conversation screenshots. The video of the break-in. All there, like a documentary of betrayal. Lauren turned pale. "Dr. Allen tried to slip away, but two security guards appeared beside him, firm. The guests were in shock. A woman screamed. One of Carter's partners shook his head in disbelief, and Carter, standing at the center of it all, faced Lauren. "Carter, is this a setup? This is a lie. I love you." He stood up from the chair, tall and steady. "The lie was yours. And it's over." The screen was still displaying the last clip of Lauren's audio calling Carter an old man with a pitiful face when the lights around the pool dimmed. The party atmosphere turned into a courtroom, an open-air trial in the mansion's garden with background music, champagne in glasses, and an audience of friends, partners, and onlookers with their hearts in their throats. This is an invasion of privacy," Lauren stammered, trembling. Dr. Allen tried to remain silent, but his expression betrayed him. Despair. He knew he was caught, and that more was coming. Carter dropped the microphone and stood up from the wheelchair again. The sound of his movement made some guests step back, shocked. Lauren's eyes widened, and she took 2 steps back. "You were faking it this whole time. You could walk. Faking." Carter's gaze was piercing. "You were the one who was faking. I just played the same game. The difference is I did it to find the truth. You did it to destroy me." Absolute silence. "You can't do this to me in front of everyone." "I can. And I'm doing it because it was here in front of everyone that you used me, betrayed me, lied to me, and laughed in my face while you said you loved me." James appeared from behind the stage with a tablet. It's all here. Fake contracts, recorded conversations, attempted fraud, and best of all, the attempt to use an invalid document. It's all in the hands of my lawyers and the police. Lauren started to sweat. Her makeup slowly melted, as if her face was dissolving along with her lies. You wouldn't do this to me, Carter. You're not like that. You also said you were someone else. Look where we ended up. Dr. Allen tried to leave discreetly, but two men in suits, who were among the guests, intercepted him. One showed his ID. Detective Sanders. Sir, you're being brought in for questioning regarding crimes of fraud, document forgery, and attempted embezzlement. Dr. Allen tried to resist, but was removed without a struggle. He looked at Lauren one last time with cold contempt. She was left there, alone, in the middle of everyone. Carter, please, let's talk. We can sort this out between us. Sort it out like you and your lawyer were ready to do with everything I own. My house, my company, my life, it wasn't like that. It was exactly like that, and you know it. The guests began to move away. Some whispered, others took pictures. Carter's partners approached him. If I hadn't seen it, I wouldn't have believed it. Congratulations on being smarter than them. Carter nodded, but his eyes remained on Lauren. You won't be arrested tonight, but I've already filed a lawsuit against you and Eddie. The police will be knocking on your doors, and it won't be to ask for an explanation. It will be to get answers. There will be plenty of evidence. Lauren cried, not with remorse, but with desperation. I did it out of fear of losing, of being left behind. You were too big. I felt invisible. You weren't invisible. You were important, but you chose to be selfish. You chose to use me. Now you'll deal with the choices you've made. Maria appeared at the side of the garden, tears in her eyes. A heavy but necessary relief. She remembered every humiliation. Inside, she felt that justice was finally being served. Carter saw her and gave a discreet nod. Maria returned it, without approaching. Lauren slowly walked away, her eyes on the ground. The guests made way. No one stopped her. No one defended her. No one said a word. The music came back on quietly, but the party was over. The truth had finally been served. 2 days later, the mansion felt different, lighter, quieter. Carter woke up early, had coffee on the veranda with Maria, and watched the street for a while. For the first time in months, he took a deep breath without a tightness in his chest. James arrived with a manila envelope. It's all here. Copies, dates, signatures, photos, screenshots, audio. Doctor, Miller filed it with the DA's office last night. Carter leafed through it, nodding. Now there's no turning back for them. Maria brought coffee for James and sat next to Carter, serene despite her exhaustion. Did you see the article on the news website? It's already out. It's everywhere. James added, Billionaire fakes paralysis to expose multi-million-dollar scam by girlfriend and lawyer. Carter gave a dry laugh. It sounds like fiction, but it's just life being what it is. Meanwhile, Lauren was holed up in her mother's apartment. She wouldn't even go out for bread. Her social media was flooded with comments, questions, memes, accusations. The story went viral. Some called her a genius for trying to scam a billionaire. Others cursed her. Many others. The worst was yet to come. Eddie was arrested 2 days later. The police found part of the money from the safe, copies of documents from the mansion, the luxury car, and a list of future targets. He tried to deny it, but his record spoke for itself. Charges in New York, Los Angeles, Chicago. The headlines exploded. Trio architected silent scam against businessman. Housekeeper helps unmask $1 million scheme. Personal trainer, lawyer and girlfriend. The web of lies behind the facade romance. Carter watched the reports in silence, with a glass of water and lemon. He didn't celebrate, he didn't smile, he just observed. She's the missing piece, he said, looking at the TV. She'll fall. Maria replied. And she's just trying to run from the inevitable. And she fell. A subpoena of her bank records showed regular deposits into accounts linked to Dr. Allen, part of the money coming from shell companies in the names of strawmen, money laundering, fraud, a crime. The arrest warrant was issued the next morning. "Lauren is being arrested today," James announced. Carter let out a slow breath, as if he'd been holding it for days. She deserves it. She was arrested, leaving a cosmetic clinic on the Upper East Side. She tried to hide her face, but the photographers were already there. The image of her getting into the police car spread across the country. She didn't speak, didn't scream, didn't cry. She just lowered her head. The same day, Dr. Allen was indicted for fraud, forgery, criminal conspiracy, and attempted embezzlement. The audio recordings with Lauren became the primary evidence, his cold voice, the hallmark of the scam. Carter spent the afternoon organizing documents with Dr. Miller. He wanted to close this chapter quickly, not for revenge, but to end the cycle. "I don't want this to drag on any longer than necessary. It's done." "You're right," Dr. Miller said, "but this is still going to make waves. They can have the fame. I'll take the piece." Maria became a subject of media interest. Reporters came to the mansion. "Is it true the housekeeper was the only one who knew the truth? Will she give an interview?" They shouted at the gate. James answered calmly, "Maria won't be speaking to anyone. She just helped a friend." Carter, watching on the security camera, smiled for the first time in days. "A friend? Now that's worth something." That night, he invited Maria to dinner. Nothing formal, nothing romantic, just the two of them in the living room, each with their plate, talking about everything, her mother, his childhood, what they would do if they could start over. "I don't even know. I guess I never stopped to think about it." "Then start now," she said. Outside, the moon was full. The city continued its usual chaos, but here, inside the mansion that had for so long been a stage for lies, the truth had taken over. The arrests became the topic of the week, from the neighborhood association group to the reception desks at Carter's companies, from the elevator to his old high school group chat. Messages poured in from everywhere, shocked childhood friends, texts praising his intelligence, jokes that he should become a screenwriter. Carter read everything and replied to little of it. Business colleagues, directors, investors came, people worried about the company's image. "Are you going to sue the press? Are you moving the company out of the country? This could affect investor confidence." He ignored half of them. To those who deserved a response, he said, "My company is solid. The only ones who fell were the liars." The next morning, Paul, one of his oldest partners, showed up with a box of wine and a sincere look. "And I came to see with my own eyes if you're okay." They sat, opened the box, and sat in silence until Paul said, "I always suspected her, but I thought it was just me. She seemed so dedicated." "She was an actress," Carter replied, "dedicated to the role. You shouldn't have gone through that. But to hold it all together and orchestrate that whole show, I couldn't have done it. It wasn't easy. It was necessary." Paul called the other partners, calming the market. The professional side settled. The personal side, not so much. Some guests from the party disappeared. People who had been at the front of the stage, applauding, now avoided contact. "Funny, isn't it?" said Maria. "When you were in the chair, hardly anyone looked at you. After the party, everyone was around. Now that the dust has settled, they're gone." Carter gave a short laugh. Most people just want to be near someone who looks like a winner. When the game changes, they run, but some stayed. And those people, Maria, are the ones who matter. James became a silent hero. He received calls, job offers. "My place is here," he replied. Maria also received messages, distant relatives, neighbors, social media acquaintances. She read them with irony and moved on. One Saturday, Mary Ann, an ex of one of the partners, asked to visit Carter. She arrived with a rehearsed speech. "I was shocked. Your strength, your intelligence. You should write a book, make a movie." "It wasn't a movie. It was my life." Carter cut in, gentle but firm. The visit was short. Later, he commented to Maria, "Did you see her eyes? The same as Lauren's, curious about the money, enchanted by the name, zero real interest. Yeah, I don't want that near me anymore." In the following days, Carter avoided events. He preferred to reorganize his life, reading, reopening projects, calling his real friends, the ones who called at the wrong time, not now that he was a headline. The mansion's atmosphere changed. Less hustle, less appearance, more truth. It was a beginning. On a calm Sunday morning, the grey sky promised rain. Inside the mansion, Carter reviewed papers with Dr. Miller. Maria brought coffee. James entered with a phone in his hand. "They're making the arrests today." Tension filled the air. The warrants were ready. A few hours later, police cars were in front of Lauren's place. Reporters, cameras, everything broadcast live. She came out in a baseball cap, her face grim. The detective announced the warrant. Lauren tried to argue, cry, ask for time. The law spoke louder. Handcuffs. Eddie tried to flee from another address. Jumped a wall, climbed a gate, surrounded. Arrested with cash, papers, a phone. Dr. Allen received his visitors at his office. Police, lawyers, journalists. He denied everything, blamed Lauren, said the documents were valid, but the audio, videos, and evidence were all there. Carter's lawyer called to confirm, all three detained, the case heading for an arraignment, forensics on the documents and signatures, bank records under analysis. Carter sat down, and Maria brought him water. "Ah, thank you," he said to her, "for everything, the confrontation, the truth, the courage." Social media exploded. Headlines, recordings, comments. Inside the house, relief mixed with pain, disappointment and justice. Messages of congratulations, apologies, people wanting to reconnect. "The day of truth has arrived," Carter replied curtly. At the police station, Lauren cried, tried to explain. Dr. Allen claimed legality. Eddie contradicted himself. The evidence piled up. Transfers, shell accounts, strange deposits, passwords, fake documents. Maria and James followed from outside. Lauren avoided Maria's gaze. Dr. Miller texted, "Solid investigation." The weight of the lies began to dissolve. By nightfall, everything was clear. Lauren arrested, Dr. Allen arrested, Eddie detained, charges of fraud, forgery, attempted embezzlement, and money laundering under investigation, documents, videos, and testimonies as evidence. Carter was alone after everyone had gone to rest. On the veranda, he looked at the sky. He knew there would still be long legal battles and uncertainties, but for the first time in a long time, he felt clean. Lauren in her cell, head in her hands. Fear, shame, anger. She knew she had lost. And outside, many who had once applauded her were now saying, "I told you so." While the city slept, Carter closed his eyes, exhausted, but with a sense of justice and mission accomplished. Light streamed through the tall windows. The weak sun cast long shadows on the carpet. Carter sat on the sofa, knees bent, elbows on his thighs, head in his hands. He didn't cry, didn't scream. He just sat. His heart beat slowly, like someone who knows that, finally, there's no more rush. Just days ago, it was all parties, shouts, laughter, appearances. Now, silence. The mansion felt cold, even with the lights on. Long corridors, like a hospital. He walked aimlessly. The pantry, the living room, the veranda. He stopped, looked outside. The city unfolded, and, For the first time, it didn't seem like the enemy. It was just the world, moving on, far away, illuminated, full of too many people and stories. Maria appeared with a glass of cold water, stopping beside him. He just raised his eyes. "Hot today?" she asked. He nodded, not sure if she meant the weather or the moment. They stood side by side for a few seconds without speaking. He drank the water slowly. His throat was drier than he expected. James came in later, slowly, with the legal papers under his arm. He left everything on the dining room table, opening the windows to let in some air. The wind entered, rustling some curtains. It felt like a breath from the outside world, but inside, almost nothing moved. Carter picked up one of the papers. It was a court summons, a fine, a judicial deposit. It was more bureaucracy. Another document stating that Lauren, Dr. Allen, and Eddie were guilty. He knew the accusations, but seeing them on paper, stamped and official, was different. Cold, definitive, and it hurt. He sat on the sofa, closed his eyes, and tried to name what he felt. Anger, yes. Relief, too. But above all, an emptiness. The space that was once hope, that she would be different, that the love was real, that together they would build something. That belief had been ripped away. Maria watched, not knowing whether to speak, ask, or console. She knew nothing could reverse what had happened. She thought about the late arrivals, the hidden laughter, the muffled phone calls, the disapproving looks behind the smiles. She remembered every scene where Lauren pretended to care. And now, what was real? Carter opened his eyes and looked at Maria. "Do you think it passes? That one day this will stop hurting?" She took a moment, then said, "I don't know. I think the pain changes. It gets smaller or different, but it passes, at least in part." He sighed, shrugging as if carrying something invisible. "I hope so." The following days were both the same and different. He would wake up and face the empty bed. Her clothes were gone. Some of his, left around the rooms, became reminders of when he thought she would return. He'd pull a shirt she used to wear from a drawer, smell it, remember her perfume. Every detail became a blade. At work, the cracks appeared. Partners whispering, clients avoiding meetings. With every contract, he felt he had to prove his credibility all over again. The press dug through archives, resurrecting questions, the signature, the testimonies, the reactions. He saw it all. The echo of the questions hurt. On the other hand, there were those who came without asking for anything. People who were close before everything, who offered their presence and a future when the future seemed distant. Maria was one of them. She was there, without demands, just existing beside him. Sometimes he made her coffee. Sometimes a silly joke just to hear her laugh. It was small, but it was light. One night, he decided to look at old photos. He found a travel album, put it on the TV. Landscapes, laughter, Lauren looking at him. Simple, happy moments. He stood there watching each face, each expression. It hurt more than a scream, because there was a truth there, at least a part of one, or at least he wanted to believe so. He turned everything off and sat in the dark, with the faint light from the veranda. The wind rustled a plant. He looked at the garden and thought that if things had been different, if he had found out sooner, if she had chosen to be true, he would have loved her completely and been loved in return. Maria came in with a blanket and covered his shoulders. He closed his eyes. It didn't cover his whole soul, but it helped. One afternoon, he went to the office. A tense meeting. In the eyes of some, he saw respect, the kind given to someone who fights their way out of a hole. Firm handshakes, short messages, a stay strong here and there. He listened and responded little. He still didn't know which voice to use. He wanted less grandeur and more lightness. He slept poorly. In his rare dreams, he saw Lauren's back, leaving with a suitcase. He'd wake up alone. One night, he collapsed on the bedroom floor, crying. Maria found him and sat beside him on the floor without a word. Sometimes presence is enough. With time, he changed the house, took down the picture of them, changed the curtains, reorganized the study, threw away letters and notes, not to erase the memory, but to stop tripping over the lie. He wrote in his journal things he forgot to feel, things he wanted to forget he felt, promises made and not kept. Slowly, the emptiness shrank. It still existed, but it was being filled with other things. Maria's laughter, the applause of those who stayed, the warmth of the sun. Old projects reopened. He didn't forget what happened. Memory is liquid and soaks you without warning. But he learned that some wounds don't fully close, and yet you can still move on. At the living room window, looking at the illuminated city, he thought, life goes on, and I will go on. He closed his eyes and let the wind hit his face. He felt a lightness. For a few moments, he truly breathed. The mornings began to change. He stopped waking up with a start. He would spend a few minutes looking at the ceiling, remembering without the weight of before. The silence of the house became a space to breathe. He would get up, open the large suite window, let the light in and take a deep breath. At the table, Maria would appear with orange juice, fresh bread, coffee without sugar, just the way he liked it. They would have it together, with few words, but a presence that grew lighter each day. She didn't ask too many questions. She listened when he spoke. And he started to speak. Today, I want to look at a project. I'm going to take up that photography course again. I want to visit my dad upstate. Maria would smile, a smile that came from the soul. It was new for both of them. At the company, Carter slowly returned with more confidence. He participated in meetings, not to command, but to listen and encourage. No speeches, just clarity. He showed that weakness isn't giving up, and that defeat teaches. Some employees still looked at him cautiously. Others approached. An old manager clapped him on the arm. Good to see how you've bounced back. Carter smiled and returned the gesture. He liked it. Maria started to participate more. He entrusted her with new responsibilities in the house and at the company, asked for her opinion on the decor, asked her to review simple contracts. He gave her power, not out of gratitude, but on merit. She accepted, surprised and happy, knowing that this space was an achievement, not charity. He liked seeing her grow. One Sunday, he left the house. He went to the farmer's market with Maria. They walked between stalls, picked out mangoes, listened to the sound of their footsteps on the pavement. The city felt familiar again. People smiled in recognition, not curiosity. A childhood friend appeared by chance, a light hug, easy conversation. In this new rhythm, he decided to visit Lauren's mother, not to reconcile, nor to forgive immediately, but to understand where it all went wrong. They sat in her living room. It was painful. The mother cried, tried to defend her. He listened. He understood that part of Lauren's weakness came from old expectations and fears. It didn't erase the betrayal, but it eased the anger and reframed the story. The same week, he picked up his camera again. He went to the park to photograph light and shadow, people walking. He sent a photo to Maria. Look how the light hit here. She replied, beautiful. He smiled. Maybe being happy again was about seeing light where he once saw shadow. He also took a simple getaway to a seaside inn, slept to the sound of the waves, read in a hammock, watched the stars without thinking about plans or news. He came back a little more whole, a long shower, the veranda, the city below. He felt he could want again, love, friendship, peace, but in the right way, slowly, without a debt of trust. He realized the future wasn't a new face, a bigger company. It was looking inward and seeing that it was worth not giving up. One of those days, He wrote in his planner, "Today, I decided to truly value myself, to give myself space, mistakes, laughter." He closed the planner and lay down. Maria came in, wished him good night, a light kiss. He watched the stars through the window and thought about the paths he had abandoned and the ones he was choosing now. Maybe it was possible to rebuild something beautiful, something just his. In the silence that no longer hurt so much, he found a new perspective, fragile but promising. On a Saturday afternoon, with a clear sky and a gentle breeze, Carter was in his study reviewing emails, organizing finances, contracts, and balance sheets. He wanted everything impeccable. Maria, in another part of the house, was testing new light fixtures. The mansion breathed lightly, almost domestically. James entered with a certified letter. Carter opened it with the care of someone expecting the irrelevant that could change everything. It was from Lauren, not about prison or accusations. A simple, overly personal letter, without a lawyer's touch. He looked at Maria, curious and cautious. She approached slowly. "She wants to see you tomorrow. Just to talk. She said she wants to confess something." Carter fell silent. "Do you think I should accept?" "Just listen," Maria replied. "Maybe you'll understand something that was invisible." The night was heavy. He slept poorly. In the morning, he wore jeans and a light shirt. He asked Maria to accompany him. They went to a discreet cafe. Lauren arrived late, looking tired. They sat in a corner. She avoided eye contact. Her hand trembled as she ordered coffee. Maria watched from a distance, half hidden. Lauren raised her eyes. "I didn't come to ask for forgiveness. I came to give you something you deserve to know." Carter frowned. "I found out something else yesterday. I thought it was a detail, but it's not." She paused, swallowing her pride. "Remember Dr. Allen's secretary? I spoke with her. She showed me papers, documents I signed without knowing what they were. It wasn't just the fake power of attorney. The authorization for the companies had clauses that tied me as a guarantor for debts I didn't even know existed." Carter froze. Maria swallowed hard. Lauren continued. "Dr. Allen and Eddie said it would just be on paper to fool the banks. I trusted them and knew very little. I signed as a guarantor for shell companies that declared losses to evade taxes. Part of the money disappeared." She took a deep breath. "And I know I messed up badly, but I had to tell you before a collection notice arrived with your name on it. It would be unfair." The sound of a spoon clinking against a glass seemed loud. Carter looked at the horizon, calculating the risks. Lauren went on. "I started trying to fix it. I asked Dr. Miller to verify it, cancel what's illegal, report the banks, file police reports. I can't undo everything, but I've started protecting myself and protecting you. You needed to know." Maria approached and spoke softly. "Why was everything in your name? Why did you trust him so much?" Lauren closed her eyes. "Fear of losing family, approval, security. I thought being with him would give me that. By his side, nothing would be missing. I tried to be strong and became fragile." Carter remained silent. It hurt in a different way. Not just betrayal, but crossed guilts. He realized she had schemed a lot, but she had also been manipulated in a way he hadn't imagined. Part of the scam had grown on his own insecurities. Lauren had exploited them. After a while, he took a deep breath. "I've already done a lot for myself. Now I'll do it for myself and for what's left. Let's see the papers. Let's shed light on what's still in the shadows." Lauren nodded, without tears, just a shrug of someone accepting the weight. Maria sat closer and placed her hand on his. He squeezed it lightly. Back at the house, Carter felt the place was different. Open windows, the sound of children, bicycles, birds. He understood that hearing a confession hurts, but it can be a new beginning. It doesn't erase, it transforms the weight. That night, he called James and Dr. Miller. With the documents in hand, he ordered notifications to be sent to banks, retractions, and reparation lawsuits. He made it clear there would be no witch hunt, there would be justice, so no one else would fall into the same trap. Maria saw Carter standing firm before Lauren. No hatred, no embrace, a dignified and heavy acceptance. He knew life isn't a soap opera. A new beginning comes stained with scars, debt papers, and a forgiveness that is a difficult choice. Watching Lauren say goodbye and get into the police car to face the consequences, he understood that the final twist wasn't about her, Dr. Allen, or the scams. It was about him, about deciding that, despite everything, he would live with truth, that he would value those who show themselves truly, that he had learned to read between the lines, to see beyond images, and not to let doubts become his home. Carter gave himself back to himself. He stopped being a victim of himself, chose not to live in the lie he was afraid to face, and realized that, as bad as the storm had been, he could build something new. Not perfect, real.